Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
People say to me, Savage, how do you do it? How do you get up every day and put your energy into this? How do you do it? How do you overcome despair, depression? How do you do it? How do you do it? Well, last week I posted Dr. Ford deeply tied to CIA with a question mark. And I put the evidence out there for the whole world to see. And we received more traffic on that story than any story I've ever published in my entire career in radio. And yet, there's not one link to any website in the country. There is no discussion of it anywhere in the country. You will not see it on Fox News. Certainly, you will only see it on MSNBC or the major networks. Why is that? If they're looking into whether Kavanaugh had a beer or two, wouldn't they be interested in what Dr. Ford may have done or who she actually is with that uprising little girl voice of hers? Well, I posted this. Besides being a so-called professor at the off-brand university in a parking lot, she also works at a major university down the street from Palo Alto, and that's called Stanford. And guess what she does at Stanford? Why, she's the head of the CIA undergraduate internship program at Stanford. That means she recruits. Now, unto itself, there's nothing wrong with that. I love the CIA. I think they do great work. But wait, it gets more interesting. Christine Blasey's brother, Ralph III, used to work for the international law firm of Baker Hostetler. That firm created Fusion GPS, the company who wrote the Russian dossier. They later admitted it was only a collection of field interviews. Wait, it gets better. This law firm is located in the same building where the CIA operates three companies called Redcoats, Inc., Admiral Security Services, and Data Watch. All wonderful companies. They're run by Ralph Blasey II. He happens to be the father of Dr. Ford and Ralph III. Wait, it gets even better. Christina Ralph III's grandfather was Nicholas Deak. Former CIA Director William Casey acknowledged Deak's decades of service to the CIA. Now, the point is, it's a big story. And by the traffic I have received on Twitter and on michaelsavage.com, you would think one of the great reporters in America would be interested in it. After all, didn't we just have a bestseller from a guy who wrote a book 40 years ago about Watergate? Some old hack they dug up in an elevator somewhere? I don't even remember his name. Oh, wait, what's his name? I forget his name. I swear to God, I can't remember his name. He's insignificant. And yet when his book came out, it sold 1 million copies in a day. Why is that? Why is that? Because there's a fix, and the fix is in. Now, if any one of the connections between Dr. Ford and the intelligence agency is false, I ask people, please disprove any of these points. Nobody refuted any of those points. Wouldn't you think that Senator Lindsey Graham, wouldn't you think that one of the so-called Republicans on the committee would raise the issue of, wait a minute, whoa. She's with the CIA, she recruits at Stanford. What does that have to do with the Kavanaugh hearings? If you can't figure that out, then you're dumber than a poster. And yet, you buy books. That's the funny part about all of this to me. And I asked this question this morning because it bewilders me, and maybe you have an answer for me. Here's my question. Why do liberals support their movement by consuming the lying books while our side sits on the sidelines and refuses to support independents like Michael Savage, asks a listener. And then I say, stop mass hysteria, which will be out in a week. So people put the answers up there. One of them said maybe they're at work running their own businesses, hiring people, getting out of debt, saving for retirement. Well, that's probably true, but liberals also have businesses. Next one says, because liberals are always all in, regardless of the cause. Liberals and Democrats alike message well. Independents and Republicans never have, which is why the Comey book was successful. Why McCabe, Strozik, and Ford have huge GoFundMe. Liberals message well and support each other. But unfortunately, our side does not. Many of you think it's just going to happen on its own. Now, you have to ask yourself that with a story like this, and here it is, an asymmetrical Michael Savage, all alone, no one in the media on my side that I know of, why wouldn't this be a story on Fix News Network. Why? It's a big story. It's a huge story. Why won't they touch it? Forget me for the minute. I'm surprised that Bowtie didn't rip it off yet and make believe that it was his like he did 3, 4, 5 times this year. Why did ex-Bowtie not do it? Well, there's a story about Bowtie and his connections, too. You see, you have to understand the connections between many people in the media and the very same connections. Let's put it to you that way. You don't know about that, of course, because you're kept in the dark. As I told you many times, you only see the shadows on the wall. You don't actually see the players, nor do you see the people who are lighting the fires behind the players. All you see are the shadows on the wall. So how do I, Michael Savage, an independent, stand a chance in this forest of shadows? How? I'm going to ask you another question. Why is it that Trump Swore became a #1 book on the New York Times without any appearances on any television shows? Why is it that my obscure book, God, Faith, and Reason, became a bestseller without any media, except maybe it was certainly on the Drudge Report, which is enormous and big. The only TV show I was on was the Huckabee Show on an obscure network because he's an honest guy. This guy's an honest straight shooter. He likes to get at the truth. But every last one of them on Fox News is absolutely afraid to talk about me for some reason. I think I know the reason why. And it has nothing to do with the intelligence agency. So what I want to do for you today is ask these questions. I want to find out why you think this big story of her connections or her alleged connections, so far are not disproven, are not being picked up by the media. Why? I don't understand it. You say, well, okay, people are afraid. Well, I'm afraid. I'm under increased security as a result of that posting, by the way. But I have to ask myself, maybe there are rogue factions inside the CIA who are actually in favor of the patriotic side. Maybe not every element of the CIA reports to duty for that bum that they threw out that Trump pulled his security clearances of. I forget his name. Brennan. Maybe there's a lot of Brennan holdovers. Do you think they could act rogue? Or are the rogues going to stop the rogues from acting rogue? I don't know. I know this. I'm so far in, there's no way to go out. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I am so deeply committed to the truth. There's no way to pull myself out of it. I can't go back. There's no going home again. Do you understand that? Either you're in this business to get to the truth or get the hell out of this business. Then you're nothing but a clown. You may as well get Emmett Kelly up there beeping a horn, calling himself a conservative. Just get Emmett Kelly to get up there and belch on the air every day and call themselves a radical, wild conservative. Because that's what you're getting now. You're getting clowns making believe they're really getting at the truth. I don't see the truth out there. It's the same garbage every day. Democrats no good. Republicans excellent. Donald Trump a genius. Donald Trump the greatest. Donald Trump this. Donald Trump that. Well, Donald Trump's great, but he's not everything they say he is. Nor is he that great, by the way. And so here we are, facing the music. This morning we read Trump trade deal with Canada and Mexico. On and on. On and on. The Trumpeteers were out there, glorifying the new NAFTA deal. Did any of them actually look into the deal? Oh, I did. I looked into the NAFTA deal, the one that was greatly lauded this morning as some great savior of America's businesses. And I was actually stunned to see it's all BS, by the way. Did you know that Canadian auto exports up to 2.6 million cars will not be impacted by any U.S. tariffs on foreign cars? Did you know that Mexico got the same threshold level of exporting 2.6 million cars into the U.S.? But here's the kicker. Neither country exports that many cars to the U.S., so it's smoke and mirrors. It's just a charade. It's just a charade. The businessmen who are running the country are doing a very good job on the economy, didn't do anything for the average Eddie out there. Nothing. I saw nothing in this that's positive. So what do you want me to do? Get up here like Emmett Kelly and tell you it's wonderful? Because the blimp does it every day? And the Blondie thrower does it every day? What do you want me to do? Be one of them? I won't be one of them. I'm an independent. I always have been, always will be. And so, therefore, I have to go back to the original story. Why is this major story being ignored by the media? Why? How do you let this happen? All these talk shows have call-in lines. Why don't you call in and ask all these great geniuses in the media why they don't report about this? Is it because I brought it to light or what? Or their bosses told them, no, you can't touch that one. No, we don't go there. We don't go there at all. We stick to the basic vanilla. Maybe you get vanilla swirl every once in a while, but you're not going to get into the real McCoy here. We don't want to go there. Well, those are some of the questions that are really bothering me right now, because this is a gigantic story, which is Dr. Fraud. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think Kavanaugh is the knight in shining armor that they want him to be. He's a great choice, but he's a Bush, middle-of-the-road Republican. How many times do I have to say that to you? He's not the flaming conservative that the illegitimi are making him out to be. He is a middle-of-the-road conservative judge from the Bush administration. But even that's too conservative for the communist thieves on the other side. And I still don't understand that despite all of the attention on her, why Donald Trump himself does not stand up there and say, wait a minute now, Senator Feinstein, millions of Americans are asking about that China spy that you had driving for you for 16 years. Before you toss stones at the glass house of Mr. Kavanaugh, you better reinforce your glass with some steel. Okay, that's the open.
Savage.
Is Dr. Ford a fraud? Is she a complete construct of the intelligence agencies? Is she what Charles Schumer meant when he said, if you screw with them, they have 6 ways to Sunday to get back at you? Why is the media not reporting on this story, even the so-called conservative media? Does it matter? Well, you'll have to decide. And why do the liberals support their movement in such great numbers by buying useless books by old hacks like Bob Woodward, who has done nothing since Watergate, of any note whatsoever, and yet they buy 1 million copies the day the book comes out, and you sit there like a big schmuck. You don't buy any books. You don't really do anything. You don't consume any conservative items, do you? Why? That's why they're winning, because they're winning the information war. And I'm very deeply indebted to my own work. Stop mass hysteria is the point of my rage today. Why? Because I see what's coming. I see that it will not be covered anywhere in the media the same way as the CIA connection to Ford is not being covered. So you know what? So long as I'm on the air, so long as I have a huge audience, I'm going to give you the contents of this great new book because it's the single best conservative book that I've seen in years, including my own. So let me begin at the beginning. You know what I'm just going to do for you? Many of you, you don't buy books because you don't read. I'll read you the chapter titles. That's all you should get out of it. You don't need to actually buy the book. Just consume it for free and then make believe you're a great conservative. The History and Mechanics of Mass Hysteria. From 60 Minutes to 60 Hookers. Chapter 3, Mass Hysteria, Anarchy's Secret Weapon. Crowd Psychology. Hysteria, Victimhood, and True Trauma. Does that sound familiar to you? Hysteria, Victimhood, and True Trauma. Chapter 4, From Plymouth Rock to City Hall, The Seeds and Blossoms of Mass Hysteria. Hysteria as Bullying. Chapter 5, From Salem to CNN, How Hysteria Taught Us to Anesthetize Ourselves. A Real War Against Women. We then go on. From Assassins to Generals, Mass Amnesia and Lunacy of Marijuana Advocacy. You heard me right. Mass Amnesia and the Lunacy of Marijuana Advocacy. I wrote it. Chapter 7, From War to Peace. The enemy without becomes the enemy within. Chapter 8, From Peace to War. Hysteria creates seismic shifts in America. 9, From Regional War to Prohibition. 10, From Reds to Fascists. Global threats produce greater hysteria. The Red Scare and Access to Grind. 11, From Commies to Comics. Congressional witch hunts destroy lives and careers. How did I write Congressional Witch Hunts Destroy Lives and Careers when this book was finished at least 6 weeks ago? How did I write about this? Chapter 12, From Catholics to Flower Power, When Everyone Had a Pulpit. The New Hysteria, Hippies, Yippies, and Hysterics. 13, From Gas Lines to Reagan, Not All Hysteria is Manufactured. Did you hear what I said? Not all hysteria is manufactured. Hysteria begets hystericals. From consumables to climate change, the nation creates new venues for hysteria, poisonous ideas. And I close with From Treason to Tomorrow, mass hysteria on overdrive. 8 years of self-destruction under Obama. I will tell you that this is the first book I have written that is a hybrid between politics and history. It goes all the way back to the founding of America, to Columbus and things like that, and ties it to today. And it is thoroughly researched. It has page upon page of noted paged references. Every chapter has citations as to the source of the statement. It is a book that should live a very long time. It's not made for a season, but seasonal it is. That's Stop Mass Hysteria, and we're a week out from its publication. Now, normally I take the day off on the Columbus Day vacation and go to a parade in San Francisco. I'm not even going this year. It's just too much involved, and I don't even want to be there anymore. I've seen the parade. I've seen the Blue Angels. I don't even want. Imagine I don't even want to be in North Beach, sitting outside getting drunk, and gagging on pasta and watching the Blue Angels. Maybe I'm changing. Maybe I don't feel like there's time for any entertainment anymore. You know what I'm saying? I just don't feel it anymore. I think that things have changed so radically in this 1 year of the Trump witch hunt, and the vermin in the media have gotten so vile. They've gotten away with such murder, attacking white men every day, even though most of them are white men, and no one grabs them and smacks them in the face and says, "Hey, schmuck, do you understand what you're doing? You're fueling a race war. Shut the hell up!"
Savage.
Now, the hatred towards whites, and white males in particular, is very troublesome to me. Georgetown professor says white GOP senators deserve miserable deaths after Kavanaugh hearing. This is what passes for a professor today. And where is this coming from, the hatred toward white people? Why is it acceptable to put down whites in this country? How can that be an acceptable form of dialogue in this nation? How do you let this go on? If you're in a workplace and someone in a sneer says old white males, you should say, now, wait a minute, that's racist. I'm reporting you to Human Resources. You want to stop this? There's a way to stop it. You let them use that over and over again, old white male with a snicker, I'm reporting you to Human Resources. That's racist. My father is an old white male. My grandfather's an old white male. I'm offended by it. It doesn't belong in the workplace. But I want to ask a secondary question. Will the Kavanaugh smear backfire on the slimy Dems? I got this in the mail. Just spoke to my sister in flyover country, Western PA, lifelong Dem. Voted for Obama twice, but Trump in 2016. She said she and every woman she knows, including her daughters and granddaughters, believe Kavanaugh 100% and believe fraud is lying about the incident and about being traumatized. She said she is frightened and disgusted that the people running our country could and would do what Feinstein and the Dems are doing to Kavanaugh. If the Dems thought they would peel off some female Trump supporters with their fraudulent attacks, they might have miscalculated. In the past, my sister and her family and friends were pretty good indicators of what women are thinking in flyover country. I'm thinking they still are. That's only a few weeks away, really. In November, we'll find out whether or not the smear campaign has worked. And I'm still waiting to find out when it turns on the others. I'm still waiting to see when there's an investigation of the Democrats who are vulnerable because of skeletons in their closet. I'm still waiting to see when the conservative movement says enough is enough and turns on these flamethrowers against Kavanaugh. That's what I'm saying, you know. KNSS Radio, Monty, line 3. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Dr. Savage. I've been following this Dr. Ford. I find it very strange that I've never heard from her mom, dad, or any brothers or sisters that she might have. All I know is, as a father, if I had a daughter that was supposedly attacked by Judge Kavanaugh, the way that she describes it, I would be all over the press.
Well, I've read this as well, and the reason that is given for that is what?
I'm sorry?
The reason that is given for the fact that on her father's side no one has come forward on her to support her? What is the reason given for that?
I don't know. I've never heard a reason.
Well, I've read the reason.
Oh.
I've read the reason. They don't want to be questioned about their CIA connections.
I've never heard that. I find that very strange. Well, in spite of that.
Wait, is it plausible or just strange?
If it was my daughter or my sister
No,
or
you're
whatever.
not answering the question. Sir, we're having a dialogue. Is it plausible that because of their connections to the intelligence agency, they do not want to come out on her side for fear that they'll be questioned and exposed?
Not to me.
Why not to you?
My love for my daughter and all of that would override all of that.
But you're not a member of the intelligence services. If you worked for the CIA and your daughter was accused, you're saying you'd go up there anyway and speak for her, right? Is somebody coaching you? Because I hear someone in the background.
No.
Where are you right now? In some kind of... where do they have you right now? With what medication? What drugs?
No medication.
All right, thanks for the call. No, he's not a real caller. He's not a real caller. But, look, this is only talk radio. It's not any more than that. That's all it is. It's only talk radio, so don't expect us to try to get at the truth. After all, I'm not Bob Woodward. I mean, Bob Woodward wrote one book about the Watergate affair in the 1960s or whatever occurred, and he's world famous because the liberals support their own. I don't exist at all, even though I've had one New York Times bestseller after another. Have you ever read about me in the New York Times? Have you read about me covered in the Los Angeles Times? I am a force on the conservative side. I have been for a very long time. Why am I never referenced? Why? I'll let you figure out why. You come up with a blockbuster connection like this, nobody wants to touch it. Even the so-called Murdoch chorus line. Even the Murdoch chorus line won't touch it. Oh, behind the scenes, they all say they love Savage. They listen to him. Go, Mike, go. We wish we could have you on our show, but we've been told we can't. Go, Mike, go. I hear it all the time. Then when you ask them why they can't have me on their show, when they have nobodies on, they don't answer you. Said you read Kellyanne Conway says she was sexually assaulted. Now, if you don't understand what a clown act this is, where does she come off to inject herself into this story? I have so been against that woman from the beginning. She disgusts me, Kellyanne Conway. I gave her a name, Splay, a long time ago. You know why I called her Splay? There was a time when a bunch of ministers went into the White House, into the Oval Office, well over a year ago. I believe they were African-American ministers to visit the president. She was seen in a photograph with her legs spread on the couch like a little girl working her iPhone. My jaw dropped. I said, why does the president keep this person around him? And I also don't trust her. I'll be frank with you. I personally would look into whether or not she is the leaker. I'd look into a lot of things to do with Conway. Her connections are a little eerie, incidentally. Why is she still inside the White House? Who put her there? Why is the president so loyal to her? What has she done for him? Now you know the rest of the story. Now you know why you don't see me in the media and why you very rarely hear any references to me from the president. But, you know, the day I start currying favor only with this or only with that, then what do I become, another Hannity? Is that what I want to be, another Hannity? I don't want to be Hannity. I never wanted to be him. He's an embarrassment to the whole movement. His audience is vast, but it just shows you how facile people are, that they'll buy that act of the Hey Abbott look. I am not a bootlicker. I never was, and I can't be, because then there's no point in doing the show. I'm not greedy. I'm not that ambitious. What am I in this business for? You know, I got to tell you this without mentioning names. A few weeks ago, I was in Los Angeles, and I met the head of a TV network who wanted me to do a show for him. And we're about an hour together, having, you know, drinks and this and that in a house. And he finally said to me, he said, Savage, he said, you know, you're wealthy. You've worked your whole life. You've actually achieved everything you wanted to achieve. You have a grandchild. He said, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do television? And I gave him the answer, which is I think my message is important. My whole reason to live is to kind of get at the truth. But, you know, it started to work on me after the meeting was over. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this question was extremely poignant. Why do I want to do any of this anymore? Why do I want to do this anymore? What's the point of it? Am I telling you I'm about to quit? No, I'm not going to quit on air. It's not going to be one of those things. But something's wrong out there. There's something so wrong with the charade that I can put my finger on it. And every time I do put my finger on it and press the button and ring the bell is not heard outside of this audience. And so, therefore, there is a limit to how many times I want to keep pressing the bell. Maybe it's time to let the others press the bell and to entertain you and to make you think that they're making a difference. And if they know the truth, keeping it back from you because they feel you're too stupid to know it, or they themselves don't have the brains to look for it, or don't want to look for it. I mean, why would you want to dig any deeper when you're making millions of dollars hoodwinking the American public? Why would you want to dig any deeper when you can get up there and do an act every day like you're a great American patriot? And then you have your friends come on your show and make believe they're all patriots. Why would you want to dig any deeper when the act is working? I don't know. I think about these questions every day. And so the issue now comes down to Kavanaugh versus Dr. Fraud. And we're looking into whether he drank beer in college. You hear this, what it's come down to? You know anyone else who drank beer in college? You know any kid who got drunk in college? I kind of know everyone I knew got drunk in college. Everyone I ever met got drunk in college. In fact, a lot of men I know get drunk kind of regularly. And they're great men. They do great work. Some of them even fly airplanes. They don't drink when they fly the airplane, though. And by the way, what drugs are the accusers on? What drugs are they on, medical or otherwise? Medical drugs or otherwise. What drugs are they on? What medication is Feinstein on, if any? What medication is what's his name from Connecticut on, if any? Does it matter? Well, how dare you even ask the question? Well, of course it matters. If you're saying that Kavanaugh is not fit for office because of, amongst other reasons, he drank too much beer in college, well, what did you use in college? Was it LSD, cocaine, heroin, marijuana? What did you use in college? Well, you say, it doesn't matter. I'm not in college anymore. Then leave him alone on that issue. So what's the other issue? Keep going down a list and let's look into what you did in college. Let's find out what all of them did in college, whatever college that was that they went to. What did they use? What did they do? Who did they harass? Why are those not legitimate questions? Say, well, they're not running for the Supreme Court. Well, I thought the Senate's an important position. Don't you want to know if there's a stew bum drunk on the Senate? Don't you want to know if there's a junkie in the Senate? Don't you want to know if there's a psychopath in the Senate who's on medication and doesn't even know her first name until someone tells it to her before she gets up there and accuses people? What about the China spy for 16 years? Why is that not a legitimate question for Fox News? Tell me if anyone on Fox News covered the Feinstein China spy and how long they covered it for and why did they brush it aside? Why? Why did Murdoch's chorus line not cover that? Tell me why they're shaking their shoe. They could cover it. They all had that swarmy look in the afternoon sitting with the shoes and the sweater act. Why don't they cover the real stories like this? Why? Why? Well, I'll let you figure out why. And so I'm asking you these questions and telling you no lies, trying to get at the truth. And I'm using a chisel and a hammer. Chisel and a hammer. Chisel and a hammer, that's not bad. Pete Hamill's dead, but a chisel and a hammer to get near the truth. And I don't know that anyone cares about the truth. This is what I think. This is what I'm getting at. No one really cares about the truth. What is the truth? Is there truth? Remember what I said years ago? I wrote this in my journal at age 18. One day my journals will see the light of day. They've been transcribed but never published. Truth is God is DNA. I know it sounds childish and adolescent. Truth is God is DNA. My father drilled it into me. He wouldn't let me get it. He made me squirm. He made me cry sometimes. Even as a little kid, he'd ask me a question. If I hedged the answer, he'd get infuriated. He wouldn't get infuriated, but he made me crazy because I wouldn't answer him directly or I couldn't answer him. I didn't know what the truth was until I came up with the true answer to a question about whether it's something I had done or not done or something to that effect. He wouldn't let me go. He just wouldn't let it go. It was drilled into me. Why does truth matter? Does truth matter in an age of media charades? Does truth matter in an age of fake news? on both sides of the aisle. Tell me, does truth really matter to you? I'm asking you a sincere question. I don't care if you're a progressive or whatever you call yourself. Do you really care what the truth is? Or do you only care about getting your side to win? That's really the issue. Is it just a team sport? If it is, I'm out.
Savage.
Just a quick note here about the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center. They're warning of malicious cyber activity that is now centered on Hurricane Florence, which involves fraudulent emails containing links or attachments which steer people to malicious websites. So use caution with any email with the subject line attachment or hyperlink related to the hurricane. Scammers are also using social media and unsolicited texts. There are many, many threats in today's connected world. It just takes one weak link for criminals to get in. That's why I do promote LifeLock. It's a great product, and it also adds the power of Norton Security to help protect you. We all know no one can stop every cyber threat or prevent all identity theft or monitor transactions at all businesses, but I do know that LifeLock with Norton Security can see threats you'll miss on your own. Go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock, promo code SAVAGE, for an extra 10% off your first year, plus a $25 Amazon gift card with annual enrollment. That's LifeLock.com, promo code SAVAGE. Terms apply. Somebody put this up on my Twitter feed. Soros leftist groups were responsible for buying 1 million copies of Bob Woodward's book. I don't know if that's true. And then he said music industry record labels use the same ploy to create a false positive ranking in Billboard magazine for most records sold, which creates a buzz for lemming consumers. Well, it's also been done on the conservative side. I know for a fact, it's well known, that at least one individual who poses as a great intellectual genius did that. He had an organization buy the books for him. And my agent said to me, Savage, you're the only one I know of in the whole business who has not actually bought his own books through front groups or through companies, organizations. What they do is this. Let's say someone's going to be on a road tour for 10 months. They go to each of the people in those 10 cities in advance, and they ask them to buy the book in the first week, and they pay them to do so. So it's loaded up on the list. You understand that? I never did that. And I don't know whether they bought 1 million copies of the Bob Woodward book. And so I'm saying to you, the odds are so awesome. I want to read you one paragraph on rape and sexual assault to show you why I think Stop Mass Hysteria is a critical book for all free-minded people. Rape and sexual assault, I write, are terrible actions, and those convicted of these crimes should be punished. You don't have to be a Supreme Court justice, I wrote, to grasp that. But the social justice warriors aren't interested in justice and fairness. They're interested in smashing the patriarchy as they define it. Social justice warriors don't even attempt to disguise the fact that a broad, deeply rooted hatred of men underpins what they are doing. One leading feminist man-hater believes all men should whip themselves in public displays of penitence while declaring how they have hurt women in ways great and small. That's citation 14. And a teenage Vogue writer revealed the left's agenda when she wrote, quote, if some innocent men's reputations have to take a hit in the process of undoing the patriarchy, that is a price I am absolutely willing to pay. Citation 15 in Stop Mass Hysteria, the most important book you could possibly buy.
Savage. Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
Okay, here we go, hour 2. Mass hysteria or mass hypnosis is insidious and stealthy. It falls into 2 categories. The first is positive hallucinations or hysteria, when you believe something is real, absent evidence, just because someone says so or if it fits your preconceived notions. The second form of mass hysteria or mass hypnosis is known as negative hallucinations, when you deny the existence of something real despite overwhelming evidence that it exists. Now, the media and governments exploit both. We're living through it right now. We're living through both the first category of positive hallucinations or hysteria, when the leftist believes something is real without evidence, that he's a gang rapist and a drunk. The second is negative hallucinations or hysteria, when you deny the existence of something real, which is the economy's never been better, despite overwhelming evidence that the economy is great. That's the second form of hysteria. Page 9 in Mass Hysteria, I write, the run-up to the 2018 U.S. midterm elections has proven that the voices of mass hysteria now control the news media and social media with everything from vile tweets to Bolshevik-like marches. They're attempting to corrupt our political system with undocumented voters and uninformed rhetoric to demonize President Trump, Republicans, and conservative thinking in general. If they are allowed to triumph, if Congress is lost to the Democrats, Trump will be impeached and his work will be undone. At least that's my belief. Now let's go back to my number one contention on who is Dr. Fraud. You know her as Dr. Ford. And I read you this over and over again, who her family is. And I've asked, because I didn't want to be accused of just putting out unconnected statements here. I put this up the other day. I said, is Dr. Ford deeply tied to the CIA? And I pointed out the connections. And then I put this up. Is there anything I tweeted about Dr. Ford's CIA connections that can be proven false? That went up on September 27th. And I've waited for people to tell me that these connections are false. No one has been able to refute any of these connections. I'm open to callers who can. So let's go to Billy on KSFO. Billy, go ahead, please.
Hi, Dr. Savage.
Well, you're on the radio. Go ahead, talk.
Yeah, I called to tell you that I know I believe you, but I called the radio station and told them they were lying. It's another radio station here in Sacramento. And the guy that answered said, "Oh, that's been debunked." I said, "No, it hasn't. It hasn't been debunked." And the guy,
no, well, I would sleep better at night if what I said is not true. I would sleep much better at night.
Yeah, I think.
If someone could call this show and say to me, "No, Savage, you're wrong. She doesn't head up the CIA undergraduate internship program at Stanford. No, her brother Ralph III used to work for the law firm of Baker Hostetler, the company that created Fusion GPS. Or no, Savage, they're not operated by Ralph Blasey II, the father of Christine Ford and Ralph III. But no one's called and proven that to be false.
They're going to.
So, Billy, in other words, I want it to be proven false. I didn't invent these connections. Somebody sent it to me. And all I did was post it last week. And what I'm sitting here and wonder, Billy, is why in the world the media is not looking into this.
You know what? I hope and pray. I pray to God every day to watch over our president and our country. And I pray that everybody will go out and buy your book, Stop Mass Hysteria. I hope and pray that everybody goes out and buys that and reads it.
Well, that's very nice of you, but you see, I'm not a member of the liberal or conservative establishments, and that's the problem. And the left will certainly back their people right down the line. The conservatives will only back those who are members in good standing of the cartel. And that's their right to do so. And I'm going to send you a copy of the book right now. Somebody just wrote me this. Bill from Brandon said, "I will be at my local Books A Million on October 9th. I hope you go to other stores as well, like Barnes & Noble. He says, "I'll be there on October 9th to get the book in person for two reasons. That will prevent Google from making money off of it. And secondly, I want to make sure your book is displayed properly in the front of the store." Well, we'll see next week what happens. It's a long way until 1 week. This is the Savage Nation. It's a very difficult, asymmetrical war that I'm involved in here. And I'm not asking you to join the war. I'm asking you to understand the odds against the truth willing out in this nation today. KSFO, Brian, line 2. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Dr. Savage, just want to say you just wrote a book called Stop the Mass Hysteria, and you're sounding more hysterical than ever right now. But I like it.
All right, hold it. With that weird little voice of yours, just making the statement doesn't make it true. Tell me what's hysterical about what I said.
No, I like it. I like the hysteria. I think you're right on point. I think this is what we need right now. I think people need to get.
Well, you're accusing me of one thing, then you're supporting me another. Are you bipolar?
Maybe. Yeah. That's.
All right. Well, I could do. I pity you, but I really don't need bipolar callers right now. I would rather have two different callers than all in one voice.
I'm not criticizing you. I'm just joking.
I know. On one voice you're criticizing, the other voice you're not. So where do you actually stand?
I think it's a time of hysteria. I think our time is our nation is in a time of mass hysteria, and we need to stop it. And I've listened to you for 20 years.
No wonder you're not. No wonder you've gone crazy.
No, why? What? Like my thing is, I mean, who wouldn't be crazy right now in this day and age?
That's the truth. Now you're starting to make sense. I do not know anyone, and I know some very successful people who are not agitated right now from what was done to what was done to Kavanaugh last week. Every man that I know is in a state of heightened vigilance, and in fact on the verge of a form of warfare because of what was done to him and what's being said about white males in general.
Dr. Savage, I'm a 37-year-old white male. I'm a doctorate of my field. And I don't go around calling myself doctor because, to me, a doctor is like when you break your arm or something, like you go to the...
Okay. Well, that was true. That was true until Dr. Ford became suddenly the greatest neurosurgeon on the planet. Turns out she doesn't even practice clinical psychology. That was a fraud put forward by the media. You know that, don't you?
Well, she's sitting there talking about the hippocampus and all this stuff like she knows physiology.
I know. That was very cute, wasn't it? She made herself sound like such a great neurologist.
Right.
I mean, that's basically fifth grade charade, hippocampus. You could look at a wall chart in a chiropractor's office and see the picture of the hippocampus.
I'd like to see Ben, what was his name? Ben, the neurologist, the conservative.
Oh, Ben Carson. Yeah, that would have been fun. They didn't call him doctor. How come all of the vermin garbage on the left didn't refer to him as Dr. Carson when he's actually a pediatric neurosurgeon, one of the most difficult forms of surgery in the world? How come they smeared him? What, is it because he's a black man?
Right, yeah. Well, it's belief.
By the way, what's your field? What's your field?
My field's pharmacy.
Don't say it with such... Again, I don't think you have a good enough image of yourself. You're saying pharmacy like it's not a big deal. True pharmacy is a very noble profession and very difficult, by the way. Do you know that when I was a kid... I worked in a pharmacy? I don't know if you heard that story.
No, I know. I've lived here for 20 years.
Well, I actually worked in a pharmacy where the doctor compounded prescriptions. Of course, there were pills that you counted out. We didn't live in the 19th century. But he also would take a mortar and pestle and make prescriptions. Would you believe it?
Well, Dr. Savage, we still make prescriptions until about 10 years ago, until the government took our right, as pharmacists to make...
In a pharmacy today, do they still grind up various and sundry ingredients to make a pill?
We really are restricted because we used to be able to do that like very frequently. And for instance, like I could make you something very cheap and very easily to help you out, right? But, since big government favors big business, your big pharmaceutical companies have lobbied the government to where you cannot no longer compound anything that's commercially available. So if somebody
Oh, my God. Well, that's why they try to debunk vitamins with fake science. Right. On a daily basis.
They want to make money. If you notice, like all this stuff in the pharmacy, if you look at the active ingredients, it's the same exact thing. They just call it something different, and it's marketing,
Yeah, well, that's why you're a little depressed to say the word pharmacist, because unfortunately, all your science is not useful. It's basically put on the shelf so you can just count out pills. That's the problem, and you're no longer making the medications. Hey, by the way, my favorite compounding element was sulfur. I always love working with sulfur. Don't you love that one? I love sulfur for some reason.
Anti-inflammatory.
It's what?
It's naturally an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. It's unbelievable to learn these things in basic pharmacology. I appreciate your call. Please let me back up and apologize because I got you wrong at the beginning. You did sound one way, then you sounded the other. Then you did admit you're slightly bipolar from hitting the drugs all these years in the pharmacy. As most do. So I'm going to send you a free copy of Stop Mass Hysteria out next week. I'll be right back.
Savage.
Okay, I have a favor to ask everyone listening to the show that'll cost you absolutely nothing. I want you to, if you tweet now, go to Twitter, see my tweet from September 27th, which I pinned to the top. Is Dr. Ford deeply tied to the CIA with the connections I think are valid? And retweet it. And then let's see what happens. And then I asked you, why do liberals support their movement by consuming the lying books, while our side sits on the sidelines and refuses to support independents like Savage? Asks a listener. And I say, stop mass hysteria. Then I said, do you believe Feinstein? I'm shocked that a woman with so many skeletons in her closet, going back from the beginning, would continue to be so belligerent and to continue to goad America like she does. I'll say that again. I'm shocked that a woman with so many skeletons in her closet would continue to goad America about Kavanaugh and about Trump and the hearing without saying to herself once, wait a minute now, I have it pretty good. I've done real well. Why am I shaking the cage of all those who hate me? Why does she do this with impunity? Can anyone answer this question? Because I have the answer. Because the Republicans won't touch her. Remember, there was a show many years ago called The Untouchables. Do you know that U.S. senators are the untouchables of our time? Did you know that? Did you know that senators can virtually get away with almost anything? Did you know that? Do you know that that horrible human being, one of the lowest forms of womanhood to have ever come out of God's earth, Barbara Boxer, had the nerve over the weekend to go on a show and say something I never thought anybody could say. She said Kavanaugh had the audacity and the nerve to speak so loudly to a senator. She thinks that senators are the closest thing to God. Why do senators have such power? Why do they have such broad power? Why are they like Roman senators before Rome collapsed? My friends, that question has the answer in it. Why are our senators who are supposed to serve us equivalent to the Roman Senate and Roman senators before Rome collapsed? If you can answer the question, which is built into the question, you'll know where we are in American history and how close we are to dissolving as a republic. Because I personally do not think this country can survive much longer. I really believe at the bottom of it all, this country has passed that point when I wrote Stop the Coming Civil War. I believe Feinstein triggered. I think she is a living Fort Sumter. I think Dianne Feinstein is the Fort Sumter of our time in a dress. Feinstein is Fort Sumter in a dress. And I think that they may want it. That's the part that's really starting to eat at me. They may actually want it. They may actually want the chaos of a civil war. I was reading another book, a history book, not mine, called The Fall of Rome and the End of Civilization by Brian Ward Perkins, which I briefly referenced over the years on my show. And there's a line that jumps out to me about the Euro-barbarian, what happened to the invasion of Rome and how it collapsed as a result, and how the civilized Roman world collapsed because of the barbarians. And he quotes a French scholar named André Pajagnol, who wrote about the flourishing Christian empire called Rome at the door of Germanic tribes, and how it had achieved the remarkable feat of living for centuries on Rome's frontiers without becoming civilized, meaning the Germanic tribes. And he closed his book with two sentences. One is this: Roman civilization did not pass peacefully away. It was assassinated. Roman civilization did not pass peacefully away. It was assassinated. I believe Feinstein and the Democrats are the barbarians of our time, who are so drunk on their own power that they would destroy the republic to keep drinking in on their power. I believe they are the hordes that we have feared all of our lives. I believe they are the barbarians of our time. No, not the illegal immigrants. Make no mistake about it. They're just harmless. In numbers, they're not harmless, but individually, they're harmless, by and large. I am talking about the imperious Roman senators of our time, who are the barbarians of our time, who are assassinating America with their vile behavior. And what I'm trying to do is awaken America to what is actually at stake and what is actually going on. If I say America's insanity from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt, you get that right away. You understand that. You don't have to have a PhD to follow that. But you're saying, what the heck can I do about it? Knowledge is power. Never forget that knowledge is key to everything. Knowledge is power. If all the deplorables in this country were truly to understand the context of the Feinstein mentality and understand it's not just a corrupt senator who is simply vying for more power to bring down a guy like Kavanaugh and Trump, that there's something even deeper involved, which is literally the assassination of the nation itself, then this half of America could stand up and save the country.
Savage.
First lady who is the most gracious, intelligent First Lady America has ever seen, bar none, is on the road to her Africa tour. Do you know where the name Melania comes from? Does anyone even know the origin of the name Melania? It's very telling. It's very interesting to me. Again, when I told you I combined politics with history and stop mass hysteria, I was telling you the truth. Well, Melania, interesting name, gave away her wealth at the start of the 5th century. She gave away one of her African estates near the small city of Thagaste, which was larger than the town itself, with a bath building, many craftsmen, goldsmiths, silversmiths, and coppersmiths, and 2 bishops, one for the faith of the people, the other for the heretics. And with the resources from her African properties, Melania and her husband were able to build and support 2 large monasteries, one for 130 holy virgins, the other for 80 men. Now, wealth like this was lost to the Italian aristocracy at the Vandal conquest, which, of course, also deprived Italy and its resident emperor of all the taxes paid by Africa and of the substantial levy of grain used to feed the city of Rome. Anyway, it's a little obscure point about who Melania was, and I find it very interesting that our First Lady is on the way to Africa. I wonder if she's going to look into that, to the small city of Thagaste. I just wonder, is she interested in her own, heritage in terms of nomenclature? It's fascinating to me. So here we are living in a time of the assassination of our republic right in front of our eyes. It's literally being done in front of our eyes. Some are outright murderers trying to kill the republic. Others are just committing manslaughter in the name of power drunkenness. They don't care who gets destroyed along the way. In this case, it's Kavanaugh. He's a flawed man like I am, like you are, like Feinstein is, like every one of them are. You think that they're perfect people? You mean they didn't drink in college? They didn't run around in high school? God knows what they do at night here. We don't ask about their personal life, do we? Do we ask about what these Democrat senators do at night? Do we ask what Leahy does at night? We don't know what he does. I'm sure he just goes to sleep with a sleeping cap on and reads the Bible, drinks a cup of herbal tea. I'm sure he does. I'm positive. After all, he never drank in college. He was perfect in college, Leaky Leahy, wasn't he? Or Dick Durbin, another sterling example of the Senate. I'm sure he goes to sleep with a nightcap on, drinking a herbal tea, watching a Christian television station. I'm sure he never drank in college. I'm sure he never did anything to excess in his life. And yet there is sitting like God Almighty up there trying to destroy an innocent man on false charges. And again, I realize the Bible is dead. I know God died a long time ago. I get that. I'm a modern American. I wasn't born yesterday. I know God is dead, except for a few religious fanatics here and there. But, there is a thing called the Bible. It's an old book that old olive growers in the Middle East first wrote. It's filled with a lot of stuff that old, foolish Christians believe in. Even some Africans now and Asians, believe it or not, they hoodwink them into reading that stuff. But there's a thing called the 10 Commandments in that Bible. that a lot of foolish people follow. You know, not the smart ones like Anderson Cooper or Jake Tapper. They don't believe in that stuff. They're too smart for that. Oh, they may go to some kind of house of worship once in a while to be seen and to take their bows, but it's more for a public appearance than it is for worship of God. But nevertheless, there is a thing called the Bible, and in it there's a thing called the Ten Commandments. Used to be actually on the walls of schools, I'm sorry to say. I'm almost embarrassed to say, oh, yes. School buildings used to punish children with the Ten Commandments on the wall. It was a terrible time in America. Children were taught not to cheat, lie, steal, beat people up. Can you believe that? Well, anyway, one of the Ten Commandments that Dianne Feinstein apparently missed in Catholic school says, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. I realize it's a primitive statement written by those old olive growers who had a hallucination in the desert, probably owing to vitamin B3 deficiency, and they thought something about a burning bush and something called God came down in a spaceship and told them all of this rubbish, and he gave them these rules because they were wild people, those ancient olive growers in the desert were. They did such crazy things, those old Jews. So the leaders had to come up with some fantasy. Says, yeah, look at that. They came down there, boom, bang, bing, boom, with it, and they chiseled it out, the Ten Commandments. One is, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Now, why would they have taught the ancient olive growers, thou shalt not bear false witness? Why would that have been a value that has been lost by Dianne Feinstein, Dick Durbin, to name a few? I can name all of them if you'd like, all 10 of them. How come they didn't read thou shalt not bear false witness? How come they didn't read that? Why? They're the same people who tore down the Ten Commandments across America. They worked with Ruthie Girl Bader Ginsburg to say that, oh, well, those Christians can practice it in their own home, but those Ten Commandments have no business in a schoolroom. Those Ten Commandments monuments don't belong anywhere in America. Tear them down, and then tear down Columbus along with it. Tear all of America down and rebuild it in the name of the municipal skirt. That's why. Because once you tear it down, you can rebuild it in your own image. And if you want to see what your own image is, go to michaelsavage.com and see a picture of what went on in San Francisco over the weekend with people beating each other with whips in public, walking around naked, having poor psychologically damaged individuals dressed up as dogs, cats, and other animals on leashes in the streets for all the children to see. That's a progressive view. The Folsom Street Parade, that is a progressive thing that Pelosi was proud of. She said those are her values. Feinstein approves of that. She approves of all these things. This is in her backyard. This is the wholesomeness of our time, not those commandments put out by those old Jews in the desert. No, it's whipping people in the streets of San Francisco, punishing them with all sorts of things on their body, dressing them up in the most frightening costumes that you would see in a horror show, all for the children to see in merry old San Francisco. Now, that's family values as practiced by Feinstein and Pelosi here in San Francisco. They themselves don't practice it. I mean, they're old women. You wouldn't expect an 85-year-old to get dressed up as a bear or a dog or a cat, would you? No, but you can approve of such things. It's wholesome. It's wholesome, and it's just choice. It's just freedom of choice and of expression to beat someone up in the street like that. And it doesn't lead to anything worse. I mean, it's consensual. I mean, you get a psychologically damaged individual, you tell him he's a dog or lower than a dog, and then you abuse that person. But that's wholesome in San Francisco. That's not abuse. Abuse is Kavanaugh having one too many beers in high school. Now that's abuse. That's abuse. And never forget what abuse is. Those beers did it. Idiots. My only hope is that the union men, I'm going to just address only union men out there, who are usually generally somewhat confused about things. They do what their bosses tell them to do. Union men, by and large, they don't know what to do. So when they vote, they usually vote Democrat, whether you know it or not. Some of them moved over to Trump, but many of them are still Democrats. I only hope they understand what they have to do come November. I just pray to God they understand that if they pull the plunger on a D, they may as well get a spade out and dig an open grave for their son, because they're burying masculinity by voting against their own survival. It's that serious. The insanity of our times is greater than any in my entire life. And I've lived through a lot of insane times. I can't really recall anything as crazy as what's happening right now. Now, think of the irony of this. The Feinstein gang, the whole left-wing Feinstein gang, has for years told us if it feels good, do it. Why not do it in the road? Don't be judgmental. Have as much sex as you want, anywhere you want, at any time. But Kavanaugh, he's a rapist. He is a trained rapist, a drunk, a liar, a mook, a bum. He's the worst person on the planet. And I'll tell you something else. Not only that, today they raised the stakes and said, if he's done all these things, he should be taken off the federal court. What did I say to you last week? You give these rat bums a finger, they're going to take your arm. They will chew you up like a wood chipper. You can't give them an inch. I wouldn't have given them a fingernail. But they caved in. That bum caved in on him. Jeff McFlake. A new sandwich at McDonald's is going to be named in his honor, the McFlake. It's got a crusty exterior of old breading that they buy from old bakeries, and inside is old pork rinds they can't even sell to a third world country. It's called a McFlake. It's a special burger for Democrats who vote for their own demise. So here we are. Someone sends me an email. He says apparently there are a few others who are starting to talk about the CIA-Ford connection. There were dozens of sites talking about exactly what you reported last week. You haven't heard it on Fox News, have you? Hasn't made it up to Fox yet? The great patriots, the shoe shakers, the leg shakers. Hey, Abbott! Did Hey Abbott mention it yet? The one with the part down the middle? Hey, Abbott! I'm a great American. I'm a great American. He's a great American. You're a great American. Step right up. I'm a great American. He's a great American. You're a great American. Step right up. Hey, Abbott! That's how I get it out of my system. If you had any idea the rage I feel toward these phonies, you have some idea because you're hearing it today. This is like an open asylum for me today for what I'm feeling. This is just the tip of the iceberg. For what they did to this guy, and I know he's not perfect, we know that, but he's had at least 6 FBI investigations. How many did Obama have? In all of this discussion about FBI this, FBI that, I say get the FBI. How many FBI checks did Obama have? Answer, 0. Do you know that Obama never could have passed an FBI background check? Meaning he could not have become an FBI agent because of associations with radical leftists like Bill Ayers. Did you know that? Did you know that? So the very same people who are screaming for FBI investigations had nothing to say when Obama became president. There was no FBI investigation of him, not even one. But Kavanaugh's had at least 6. 6. You'll hear that tonight on my student show on Fox News. His producer just made a note for him to look real smart tonight. Now, he won't, quote, stop mass hysteria. God forbid he should mention the book, even in passing. I know he's banned from having me on the show, but you might think, oh, I read a great book, Stop Mass Hysteria. I'd like to quote from the book, Stop Mass Hysteria. No. But anyway, take it and run with it. Kavanaugh gets FBI investigation, but the Muslim Ellison gets a pass. Did you hear that one? That was based on abuse now. Okay, my friends, you know where I stand. I don't hide it. I don't keep it back. I don't mince words. Now you know why I'm such a loved person. Now you know why everyone loves me so much. Oh, goodness, look at the time. But wait, before we take a break, I invite the callers now. Now is my pitch for the callers, 855-407-282, but don't do it because there's no open lines. God, it's only Monday. I got to do this for a week now. My voice is going to go. How do I do this every day without losing my voice? Well, anyway, here's the truth about most home security companies while you're listening. They're like dealing with another bad cable company, which we all love so much. You know, you call a cable company, you're going to spend hours, then you wait for the technicians, then hours on the phone with idiots to get questions answered. And then when you're at the end of your limit, you want to be done with the cable company. Remember, I'm locked in a 3-year contract. Nobody likes that. You don't have to have that. And if you want to protect your home, there's only one way to go. That's Simply Safe Home Security. It's designed for every window, door, and room in your home. You put it in yourself if you want. It's beautiful to look at, easy to put in. There are backups in place to keep you safe, protecting your home, even if you lose power. But best of all, you get 24/7 monitoring with police and fire dispatch. and it's only $15 a month. And unlike other home security companies, SimpliSafe has no long-term contract, right? It is the best around-the-clock protection you can find. So would you please protect your home today? Get free shipping and free returns at SimpliSafeSavage.com now. It's really simple. You go to SimpliSafeSavage.com now. That's SimpliSafeSavage.com now.
Savage.
Those of you who are God-fearing and believe in religion as a stabilizing force in a society, I want to read one paragraph to you from Stop Mass Hysteria, The Risk of Your Displeasure. And it goes right to what you're seeing them doing to Kavanaugh right now. This could end with them wanting him in jail. They're going to local police to try and get the local police, who are run by Democrats, to investigate Kavanaugh and destroy him. They would probably want his children taken away and put into protective home services. This is so bad. But how did Feinstein bring us here? How did she assassinate decency in this country? Page 57. America may have been opened for colonization as the result of religious persecution in Spain, but it was most definitely populated by people seeking to worship freely. Today, many godless or worse, God-hating people openly mock those of us who follow a Judeo-Christian faith, as if their narcissistic, sociopathic diatribes are going to change one single mind. When I was a boy, we began each school day with a standing hand-over-heart salute to the American flag that was proudly displayed in every classroom. We stood that way as we recited the Pledge of Allegiance and its reference to one nation under God, the kind of act that offends Dianne Feinstein, atheists and their allies in the American Civil Liberty Union, who seek to crush public displays of religion wherever it takes root, claiming that the Constitution provides for the separation of church and state. Unfortunately for them, the Constitution does no such thing. What the First Amendment actually says is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In other words, the government is not permitted to interfere with worship or its doctrines. And yet the liberals who are destroying Kavanaugh, the Feinstein gang, that cabal surrounding Feinstein and the others, they're the opposite of what, they're doing the opposite of what the Founding Fathers wanted. The opposite. They are out to assassinate ethics and morals. And never forget that once you assassinate morals and you have leather parades in San Francisco, you then assassinate ethics, and you have the assassination of Kavanaugh. Do you understand how it began? First morals, then ethics.
Michael Savage, a host like no other.